Let's Talk Small Business, the real talk, no BS podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who want to grow and actually enjoy the ride. I'm Mitchell Wilson. Let's get into it. Today's guest is Jung Chung, a business coach and profit hunter who helps $1 million plus businesses find the profit that's already hiding inside their numbers, operations and decision makings as well. So he's worked with thousands of business owners over 14 years plus, including government-backed SME support and live business doctor sessions with News Talk ZB. Now, his profit hunt approach is all about sharp financials, simple systems, and fast practical wins. So, today, we're talking about why so many good businesses are working hard but not seeing the profit follow, and how owners can spot leaks before they become bigger problems. So, let's talk small business.
Yeah, hi Mitchell, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. Now, I'll tell you what, you've been doing this for a long time. I think over 14 years. So, what, got you into helping business owners in the first place?
Oh, really good question. You're asking my why, my purpose. It's probably a little bit selfish. I was always interested in entrepreneurship, if you like, selling feijoas out the front of the house. For those that are old enough, when I was at high school, car stereos was a cool thing. And so, installing and repairing and doing car stereos, T-shirts was a cool thing back in the day.
Still a cool thing by the looks of it, yeah.
I hope so. No, we're not skibbity enough these days, Mitchell. You got to be skibbity, I think.
Oh, that's beyond me, that word. I'm not cool enough, yeah.
So I always had an interest in entrepreneurship. And I think, as you kind of get older, I'm showing my age a little bit, but, just saw other people struggling in that area. And when you look at New Zealand, we're a nation of small business owners, population give or take 5 million or so registered small businesses. Mm-hmm. We're number 8 wired. We love to be our own boss, work when you want to work, do what you want to do, have the boat, the beamer, the batch, all those types of things. So, while I like to think a lot of people kind of have that all sorted, in reality, I think all of us in life don't have things all sorted to the degree that we want to have them sorted. And so, there was my calling to help people understand some of the mechanics behind business. Largely it all comes down to profit, but what does your marketing look like, your sales look like, your operations and your HR and your financial management. So why I got into it is to help others on their journey to the promised land of financial freedom and running a business.
Because I guess when you're getting into business, it sounds really good. Like you said before, those 3 Bs, that's going to be great. We're going to have the batch and everything. But, small business in reality is not easy. So when you sit down with an owner, I know you're looking through their P&L. What are you usually seeing that they're missing when we're looking for that hidden profit?
Yeah, and look what I will say in defense of business owners. When I hypothetically decided to start, my plumbing business or my lawyering business or my marketing business or, whatever my business is, I never went to small business finance school. And I definitely didn't go to, accounting degree school or university. So I don't think it's a criticism. I don't think it's a shortcoming. But, again, doing this for some time and seeing hundreds, probably in the thousands now of profit and losses. Typically what I see is one, we don't really understand our numbers as business owners. And if I'm honest, a lot of times gross profit is just not big enough, which is kind of the second or third section. You've got revenue, then you've got cost of sales or cost of goods sold, and then bang smack right there, before we even get into operational expenditure and your admin staff and, your marketing expenses and sales expenses down here. Very high. It's, and what I put that down to is just, we don't understand benchmarking in business as a general, as a whole around cost of sales and gross profit. And even more so not our industry.
I mean, you make a good point before that a lot of people get into business, and I see this, every single day, and they may be good at the thing they're going into, like a plumber or an electrician. They're great at doing that. But you're also right that, I don't know what the stat would be, but a whole lot of them wouldn't have gone to business school. And when you go to your accountant and they sort of give you end of year financials, it's in a way that is not necessarily explained as to what's actually going on. And people sometimes come away more miffed than anything Is that what you find?
Yeah, totally. The accountants is the end of year accounts is just something the accountants use to keep me out of jail. They give me my tax position. And that's the thing about a P&L. And you'll know this too, as someone who is, most of our waking hours are dedicated to helping business owners, have better businesses, do better marketing, think about business better, be more organized around their strategic planning, whatever. Essentially, it's have better lives in this vocation that we've chosen, and not realizing all the demands that are put on us as business owners. Accounts or annual accounts, or even just financial statements in general, it's the last thing. It's the thing we do at night, or, we give it to the accounts person or the accountant and we outsource it. But they're built for tax purposes, right? They're not built for, am I making enough money? Am I pulling the right levers in this business? Am I tracking well to the future that I want, which is financial freedom and be my own boss and have the 3 Bs, that type of thing. So not necessarily are they miffed. They get an email probably at the end of the year. There's probably more what I see. They get an email at the end of the year. Hey, Mr. Jung, your annual accounts are ready to be reviewed, understood, and signed off for filing to the IRD for your tax reporting purposes, kind of thing. And reviewed and understanding. When did I go to accounting school? When did I go to tax school? What am I supposed to understand here? And then you've built them in a way that is for tax purposes. Because I just need to know, can I make payroll next month? Can I invest more in marketing next month? Can I hire more staff next month? That's more what is top of mind for me as a business owner. Because typically, as you know, 89% of business owners are running under $1 million businesses in New Zealand. So at that stage, I'm more worried about getting through and then skimming a little bit, or, as much as I can afford working capital into growth. Not, last year, historically, last year, I made $1 million revenue. I spent probably 70% of it in cost of sales, true cost of sales, practical business owner cost of sales, left me 30% gross profit, and I spent that all on OPEX. So I'm breaking even.
I love what you said there about true cost of sales. Okay. So can we sort of break that down a little bit? Because a lot of people may not necessarily be including their own time and effort. Can you break that down a little bit more?
Oh, I love that one too. For me, one of the most common things that I see missing from cost of sales is technician labor. It's probably one of the biggest ones. And I wouldn't put marketing, or what I prefer to call CAC, costs of acquisition of a customer or client, CAC, maybe not in cost of sales, but actually very quickly after gross profit. So that's the biggest one is we'll count materials, but we won't count technicians. And so I actually like to put a lot of the technician costs in there. Fuel, if you're a service-based business, electrician, plumber, type thing. But no, that's an interesting point around, eye labor. Where I struggle with this one is what amount of my hours is management, which I think is quite logical to put in operational or operating expenses, or OPEX.
Yep.
Versus actual labor in terms of delivering our product or service. Do you have any thoughts on that one, Mitchell, in terms of, key things that you often see missing from cost of sales? What is a key one, and why do you think it belongs in there? Yeah,
like the amount of people that come and we look at their P&L, and that, you're right, the technician, the labor isn't in that line, and it's pushed down to operational expenses. You can't make solid decisions based on that. Growth is going to come. We need to know what the gross profit is. And so, that's really the main one. I wouldn't necessarily put anything else in, but I'd like to think of it that, look, if we hadn't have done that job, is that going to be a cost? And, if we had done that job, is it going to be a cost? If it is, that's where it goes. Okay. So I would agree with you there.
Yeah, so, I love it. And again, accounting cost of sales, again, it's tax orientated. So the IRD or the New Zealand government kind of provide guidelines around what is acceptable cost of sales. The accountants align to it. And then for tax purposes, they treat or process your numbers a particular way. And again, it's great. But as a business owner, true cost of sales, did I provide technical labor? Maybe it's only a percentage of my week, but perhaps it's going to be good for me when I'm looking at my gross profit levels, which indicate to me, is my pricing correct? Largely, and am I going to have enough net profit at the end of the profit and loss of the week, the month, the year to obviously pay all my costs, pay my taxes, and reinvest in this business to keep it growing? We'll get into some psychology about growth. But can you tell me about the value of understanding true gross profit?
Okay, so a lot of people are looking at their bank account. And they're trying to base their decisions and move the head. And then they get to the accountant and they go, oh, well, where's all my money? Where's all it gone? So when it comes to, I guess, your finances and getting a clear picture, it allows you to make those decisions. And once we're clear, then we can grow. That's kind of my back end and what I'd be looking at.
I love it. Strongly agree. Really powerful for small business owners in New Zealand.
So I think you said like a lot of businesses may not necessarily be broken, but they're just under optimized. What do you reckon that looks like in real life?
Yeah, strongly agree. In saying that, coming out of COVID, like 2024, I came across some interesting communications from the IRD. And at the time, late 2024, they were kind of speculating that up to 66% of businesses might be trading insolvent. That was their estimation at the time. And so I don't think that's necessarily broken. I think the reality, when you look at the definition of solvent versus insolvent, are these startups, these tech startups, are they solvent or insolvent? So again, I think that's probably some thinking that needs to be reviewed, and ideally some legislation that needs to be reviewed. But under optimized, strongly so. And again, there's not a criticism. It's just even if you look at me, I'm a business person. Went to university to learn business management in some textbooks, and then figured, hey, look, I'm passionate about helping other business owners, optimize their businesses across their key functions. So, they can focus more on the plumbing thing, but also achieve their life goals of, be your own boss, free time, have financial freedom kind of thing. And so in terms of under optimized, it really does come from that place. It's just those things. I like to break it down into the 4 flows. Once you've got your avatar, all your problems, all your solutions sorted, and you've got a nice, profitable core offer to take to market, then it comes down to lead flow, sales flow, workflow, and cash flow. And so you've got to optimize for these things. And obviously they're quite big buckets. Under lead flow is your ideal client profile, your avatar, which channels are you on, what are your key messages, rah-de-rah-de-rah, sales, what's your process like, what's your follow-up like, what's your CRM like, rah-de-rah-de-rah. And it's just, if I'm a lawyer, Larry the lawyer, and I'm doing the lawyering, how am I, one, to know that I need to optimize, let's say, lead flow or marketing, let alone 2, what optimal marketing looks like for a law firm on the North Shore of Auckland kind of thing, let alone have the time to implement, review, manage, tweak, and then redeploy. And so that's where I think people like ourselves, ideally can add a lot of value around there. It's around 1, raising awareness, but also 2, providing, solutions and guidance. So we're raising our clients or my clients' awareness and understanding of a certain thing, but then also giving them an action plan to go and execute and improve those things. Because I believe, business can be like a conveyor belt. And once you've got those 4 areas of flow really flowing and you're constantly improving, like a Toyota or a Kaizen type thing, the overall value of the machine should increase.
Okay. Where do you think, because you mentioned before, like owners, they're doing all these things. They're doing the thing that they do, whether it's a lawyer or a mechanic. So they're doing that. How do they organize themselves so they've physically got time to do this? Or are they just having to push hard and do this in the evenings and nights? Like, what advice can you give to those people out there to actually try and move this needle somehow?
Oh, really good question. This optimization needle, this improve the business, grow the business, build an actual business, not just a part-time job. A very full-time 60-hour-a-week job. Really, really good question. And this is where I think we've got to, I would love us to understand more the personal choice that we choose when we decide to start a business. And you can start a side hustle. but even then, right, on side hustles, so if you're choosing a side hustle in perpetuity, well, then that's just tough because you need a certain level of income to provide a certain level of lifestyle. And if you're going to have a side hustle in perpetuity, well, that's kind of challenging because you're always doing your main thing and then you're always doing a side hustle. Or if you do have dreams of grandeur, how is it a side hustle? Isn't it just that you're kind of starting it as a side, building some momentum, and when it becomes real, it replaces my main hustle and becomes my primary or main source of income, kind of thing. Anyway, to answer your question, so optimize the side. So I think it's around understanding their choice. But I would argue for 90% of business owners who do start a business, they don't understand the lifestyle choice that they're making. It's kind of like parenting. Actually, if I compare it to parenting, I'm gonna have a child. 2 years in or even 1 year in, right? The sleep deprivation thing is a real thing. The constant stress, the constant juggling of all the plates and spinning of all the plates, the whack-a-mole of kind of being reactive and kind of solving problems as they pop up. And you ultimately can't have an extensive plan of how to be a great parent nor how to grow a great business. But you do know that you're going to have to try and achieve all of these things, including optimization, which is what we're talking about, as well as, eat, sleep, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, be a human, and run the business, do the plumbing, keep the customers happy, as well as somehow learn marketing. At the same time. So given that that's the context, my thing is like, how do you do anything? How do you get good at parenting? By the way, you've also got to try and eat, under 2,500 calories a day and get into the gym 3 times a week. Right. So how do you optimize for that? How do you organize your time and your thoughts, to get it all done kind of thing? And so I think it's, one, understanding the context that you're actually operating. Okay. I'm a parent now. I don't get to just, go out with the lads on a Friday night and be hungover all Saturday, So it's kind of understanding it. And then if we get tactical about it, I'm big on calendar management. Big on calendar management. A little bit philosophical, but, your calendar represents how you spend your life. And you could go as far as the Mark Zuckerbergs and break it down into kind of 15-minute increments. I don't think you need to go that far for most small business owners, but I do think we need to spend more time in there. And I would say try to put your personal stuff in there too. I don't think you need to put sleep in there, but pick up the kids from school or get into the gym, what have you. Get those in there. And then there's all the business stuff, right? And I'm big on Monday mornings. It's check your numbers, right? Pull up your cash flow forecast, especially if you're under $1 million, and probably if you're under $3 million. Monday mornings, check your financial forecast. How you're performing there. Then I'd probably get into sales. I'd probably get into the team meetings. And so use your calendar. And it's at minimum, I would say it's 90% running the business on a 50-hour work week, which is the reality of what most businesses actually do. It's kind of half a day, 5 hours a week, which is spread across optimization, improving, managing, strategic planning, that kind of thing.
And I'll say, from what you're saying, that's how I run myself. I live and breathe by my calendar. Doesn't help. Or I was going to say my memory is fairly average, I would say, and so but it's turned into a superpower because when I need to get something done, it goes into that calendar. And you're right. As a business owner, now your personal life and business are so aligned that you do need to put in those personal things and put in time for that rejuvenation, relaxation. Otherwise, it will not happen at all. So you need to make time, be intentional, and actually know where you are spending your time because there could be a lot of wastage in there as well. Okay, so when it comes to growth, what should someone be looking at in terms of maybe before they're making that hire, that next business hire? What kind of decisions, what kind of numbers do you reckon that they should be looking at to have some clarity before taking that next step?
Specifically hiring?
Yeah, let's go with hiring.
Yeah, really, really good question. And I tend to look at things in terms of when a client or a business owner is faced with a certain situation and need to make a decision. Obviously, there's the decision-making frameworks. I'm big on this framework around understanding the mindset that benefits a client, the strategy that's involved in the tactics, and then actions, the executions kind of thing. So there's 4 levels of any kind of decision or situation in kind of business. So specifically around hiring, the mindset I recommend is it profitable? Super, super basic, but if I'm honest, 80% of the time I see this, the mindset, the intention going into the hire, it's not great. And there's a whole bunch of strategic tips that I probably would offer a business owner thinking about hiring at that point. But is it just because, Johnny left or Jenny left and so we're just replacing? This is a great opportunity to actually kind of grow the business, right? Can you review the role? So now moving into strategy, can you review the role now that there's AI in here? Is there some things we can automate or slice off and delegate so that we can get more out of that role? As an example, and then when you're looking at the numbers, assuming it's a hire for growth, when you're looking at the numbers, there's different schools of thought on this. One is a war chest or a buffer of some sort. And I've seen everything from 3 to 5 months salary. And I think it depends on where that person is in the business too. I think if it's operational, I probably don't need as much runway, if you like, for this hire. Whereas if they're on the revenue generating side, so marketing or sales kind of thing, I probably do want that runway, because if the performance isn't there to provide the return on investment or ROI, I probably do want a bit of a buffer there. So that's what I'm probably looking for. And then I want strength in the forecast. But this is where I usually hit a hiccup. Under $3 million in New Zealand, in my experience, I feel like 80 to 90% of business owners don't run an informative financial forecast of some sort. But to answer your question more concisely, and then I'd be keen on your thoughts, Mitchell, what kind of numbers should you look at when you're considering a growth hire? How much buffer do I have? Ideally kind of 3 to 5 months runway in front of us, which is hard in this economy. And I would say a profitable 3 to 5 month forecast in front of me. Because if you don't have those and you're running kind of near bottom, and your forecast is looking break even, let's just say, which is not a great scenario, and then you're investing in growth, you've just increased the risk of that investment hugely, which puts a lot of pressure on you as a business owner, but also a lot of pressure on this hire. Whereas the opposite scenario, when you come in well buffered with a strong growing kind of forecast, it gives you more time to get this advertising, recruitment, production, and then getting up to speed and then managing, get it done really, really well. Are there any numbers that you think you need to look at before taking on a growth hire?
Yeah, well, first of all, if it was a technician, just remember, as we mentioned before, you need to get your gross profit right so you know what's going in there. And I guess I'll just add on to the points from there is that don't hire just for the sake of hiring. Like you said, if you need to hire the right person, because one wrong hire, one that you just hired just because you think you needed someone, is actually going to cost you in the long run. Because that can change the company culture. It can get other people annoyed. It can create a stuff up that takes more time to fix. So, yeah, just be really clear on actually who you're hiring. I mean, you can teach a skill. So I would always be looking on hiring on attitude versus resume, okay? And that's what I'd sort of put into that sentence, that, look, we're trying to build a team of A players. If we think about a basketball team, we want sort of starting five all the time. They don't necessarily need to be the best person, but are they going to be in your top three? Have they got the potential to be in there? If not, you really need to question yourself whether that is the right person that you want on your team today. So, yeah, slow down when doing that and make the right decisions is what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, strongly agree. Do you have any anecdotes of where you've seen a hire be rushed, and rather than having these A player standards, we've taken on let's say a C player, right? And we might not have found out, let's say we found out within the 90-day trial, but we didn't necessarily do anything about it. Do you have any anecdotes or stories around the impact that has had on a business?
I'm just trying to think about myself hiring someone, and I think someone came in pretty early, and I identified them, and just naturally I thought, they'll be great. I want to put them into some kind of management position. And then after the fact, because I was pretty hasty on it. Spoke to the rest of the management team going, don't worry, I got this sorted. And they just looked at me going, oh my gosh, what did you just do? Because they knew a little bit more history about that person in terms of their reliability, let's call it. And it was actually lucky for me that they turned down my offer. That was kind of like missed that one, because while they were within the company for a little while, they didn't last too long. So I think that sort of taught me a lesson that, look, I still want to have the final say, but I also always made sure after then just to get the feedback from the people on the ground with them as well. So yeah, that's when it came about.
Yeah, beautiful. In my own experience, I would argue that 80% of Kiwi businesses are held back, I guess you could say, by bad employees, to be a little bit harsh. Mm-hmm. But I would put that more down to lack of organizational development planning or HR planning, mm-hmm. Inadequate recruitment mm-hmm. as a result of inadequate HR planning, and inadequate getting up to speed or induction and training.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. If you come to someone, you complain and go, oh, every single hire I do just turn out to be shit, and it's time and time and time again. What's the common denominator there? So you do need to kind of look at yourself, and like you said, we need to have these systems in place to be able to coach, support, and bring on someone's induction right, so they know what they're doing as soon as possible and actually support them, not just rule them out straight away.
Strongly agree. Agree. And so, are we struggling with staff or HR or team or talent? Choose whichever word you want to use, and how much of it is the incumbent, and how much responsibility do we need to take? And I would argue we're the director, and ultimately the buck always stops with us. And so again, in our busy 50-hour work week, somehow we've got to get good at this marketing thing. We've got to stay consistent on the sales thing. We've got to maintain services or standards of our product or service that we deliver. And all of a sudden, I've got to become some kind of HR motivational expert on how to attract great talent and keep them, highly motivated and highly engaged, so they are high-performing talent. Yeah, it's a fun time being a business owner.
Hey, I believe you call it the profit hunt. You aim to find sort of 1 to 3 immediate fixes that can add profit in weeks, not years. Like, what makes a fix worth acting on quickly when you identify it?
Really good question. I'd argue in small businesses, doing under 3 mil, mm-hmm. It'll be the one that returns the highest amount of profit in the least amount of time. It's really that simple, which is kind of why I focused that, Over my years, I'm quite cross-functional, whether it's, again, marketing, sales, operations, HR, financial management, what have you. But if we're looking at your numbers and we identify 3 at least, because as you know, when you really look under the hood of a business, in about an hour, you will find inefficiencies, and it's just natural, right? Because that's what we do. It's like you go and see your personal trainer. They're going to say, oh, hey, look, you're eating probably a little bit too much calories. You need to drink more water. You need to get more sleep, and you need to do this type of workout. So how do you know which one? And so it's about identifying those levers that we identify, those profit opportunities that we identify, putting them on a list. You can use decision-making frameworks if you like, but it's really which one brings us the most amount of profit in the shortest amount of time. And that's got to be priority for you. If you're running a $2 million business, you're doing, let's call it 5% net profit, which is $100K a year. That hurts. That really, really hurts, right? $2 million revenue. Right? How many decks am I building to make $2 million? How many plumbers am I plumbing to do? How many lawyer cases am I lawyering to do $2 million? That's a lot. How many staff do I have running around, with mental health days and public holidays and Kiwi Saver, and all this kind of carry on, to make that $2 million. And so, we should be able to find at least 50K, at least, across 3 profit opportunities in your business. The biggest one in the shortest amount of time, get it done now to start to relieve some of that pressure that you're feeling in a $2 million business with $100,000 net profit. It is just...
Where do you you reckon owners tend to overcomplicate profit improvement?
Marketing. Oh, there are so many places, to be honest, Mitchell. Right. Understanding profit is probably the first thing. And so some of it, again, is due to our inexperience. Like, they didn't teach me profit and profit creation at primary school, at intermediate, at high school, and arguably not even at university. Even if you did, some kind of business-orientated degree. Small business profit creation is quite different. But I do think we overcomplicate it in marketing. And I think one of the major causes from it is naivety or inexperience. Because how does it work? You know what I mean? So I've got to dance on TikTok, and then I get 1 million views, and then I talk to 1,000 of them in DMs, and then I get 10 of them on a Zoom call, and then I convert one of them. Is that it can be overcomplicated, but the simplicity of it, as you probably know, is ROAS. Just they put $1 in, does it make me $4 of gross profit, not revenue, gross profit? And again, your gross profit is going to be unique to your business, and your gross profit make up, based on your offer and the way that you've kind of built your cost of sales and gross profit. Again, which is usually another area in 90% of businesses we will find an opportunity to increase profit.
I would argue that small business tend to underprice because they've got a limiting belief that if they raise their prices, they will make less money because they're going to have less people coming in. It's kind of, see that a lot. How would you comment on that statement there?
Oh, strongly agree with that one. Generally, we can't say I can't say with absolute confidence across the board. But generally, if 90% of Kiwi businesses raise their prices by 10%, they would lose a few customers, but that would be a lesser amount of profit leaving than the increase in profit of a 10% increase. So I cut here for, $300. I go to $330. All right. If I've got 100 clients, that's $3,000 a month. 100 clients a month, that's $3,000. If I lose 2 clients at $300, I lost $600, but I gained $3,000.
I'll believe you with the maths in. My brain can't take over that quick. Yeah.
Right. I definitely agree. But if I'm honest, when you look at real offer creation and real pricing creation, which is a lot more scientific than what I just explained, which is just a kind of general kind of 10% price increase. Yeah, I agree. As you probably know, look, I think there's real opportunity to put when you play in a market that is quite commoditized, like building or lawyer or making websites, whatever it is you do, it's really hard to be price competitive. But if you really craft your offer, I do 24/7 high converting websites for 24/7 medical centers. Now I can price higher because I'm super, super, super specialized. So my cost of sales probably stays similar, right? But my gross profit just massively increases because I was able to increase my price. If that makes sense, a little bit scientific.
Yeah, a little bit higher in what I'd call the authority pyramid as to where you're priced. Yeah. Okay.
100%. Strongly agree with that. Are there any other areas in business where you think, in your experience, typically business owners are overcomplicating profit?
Overcomplicating profit.
Or profit growth?
Profit growth. I think it comes back once again is to not understanding their numbers. And if they just, like I said, go into the accountant at the end of the year, that's all sort of past history stuff. You need to be on top of your numbers. You said weekly. At a minimum, I'd say monthly, but weekly even better. You need to know what's happening now so you can make the decisions moving forward or understand if we're losing money, we're making money, where can we improve? But if you're not tracking those numbers, you've got no hope. You need to, we need to measure it to improve it. Okay. Otherwise we don't know which direction we're going. It's like, sailing a ship without a compass. You need to know those numbers.
Strongly agree.
Now, owners, stress. There are so many business owners that are like carrying the whole business in their head. Okay. What do you reckon that does to decision making?
Yeah, right. There's a bit of neuroscience that probably applies here, which is a lot of your decision making is physically in your neocortex. And when you're spending too much time there and you're task switching, because the neocortex is singular in its focus. And so when you think you're multitasking, you're actually just switching focus really, really quickly across a lot of different things. You increase your stress hormone, the cortisol. And so when you run long enough, and look, it might be a day, it might be a week, it might be 5 to 10 years of just holding a lot in your head, being, overworked, underpaid, all the buck stop with you. You can't delegate because my team are shit. It just really erodes your ability to make good decisions. Basically, you're a version of burnt out, right? And one of the most valuable and powerful and profit-making things that you have as a business owner is your decision-making ability. So, you got to invest in it. Don't hold everything yourself for too long.
Yeah, and then I guess that's why I say, you do need to kind of systemize things, get stuff out of your head. Otherwise, you've just got a busy job with overheads rather than a business kind of thing, haven't you?
Yeah, I love that. I love that analogy. Yeah. Busy job with overheads.
That's what it is. That's what half these people are running. So we need to systemize. We need to put processes in place so it's repeatable. So it's not you that the business is necessarily relying on as you step up, I guess, through that ladder.
Yeah, strongly agree. Right, and now with AI, the degree to which you can systemize things is a lot deeper and wider, but also with some AI skills and capability, the speed at which you can do it now is I think it's a real, for the most part, I think it's really easy to get cost savings from AI at the moment for most Kiwi businesses, and so I think it's a real opportunity if you can make the time to invest to build the skills.
Yeah. I love it. Hey, really appreciate you coming on and sort of, I guess, getting a little bit more practical and taking that mysteriousness out of some of these things we've discussed. And I think a lot of business owners will kind of recognize the feeling of working hard, maybe having decent revenue, but kind of just wondering where the money's actually growing. So it's been really great to listen to you about gross profit, what that actually means, and all the rest. So if people are listening right now, want to learn more about you, get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to go?
To be honest, drop me an email, jung@jung.nz, www.jung.nz, nice and easy. Thank you for having me. I love small business. I love what you do and supporting, again, give or take 700,000 humans that have dedicated their lives to business. And it's just this journey that we don't realize what we're getting ourselves into. So it's been great. I hope it's been helpful to yourself and anyone who manages to catch this. Thank you.
Too right. And it's not just them, it's their families as well. So the pool is even bigger. Hey, look, if you're listening to this episode and it's got you thinking differently about your business, whether it's sales, systems, or strategy, that is the point. If you want help identifying your biggest bottleneck, mapping out your next smart move, you could also book a free breakthrough session with myself and the Coach Birds team. Thanks again for coming on. And to everyone listening, remember, profit doesn't always come from working harder. Sometimes it comes from seeing the business clearly, fixing the right constraints, and making the next smart move. Cheers.
Love it.
Let's talk small business. I appreciate you tuning in. If you got value, hit subscribe, like, or drop a comment. It spreads the word and might just help another legend get their breakthrough.